It's Think and Link, and we're on a Thursday, and we are not in Northeast Minneapolis. Son of a gun. Hey, and we've got Dale in the audience too. I tell you, I am most proud of the audiences that we draw. I told you this last month that we have an amazing number of former speakers. And again, tonight, we have a number of former speakers, which is kind of a cool thing because people ask us when we start to have a conversation about, hey, do you want to be on their stage? Do you want to hang out? Do you want to talk about stuff? And they say, so who's your audience? Who you bringing? And one thing we say is an amazing number of past speakers. And I think that's a good thing. We keep elevating the speakers. So if you haven't been, no pressure at all. Yeah, and Dan Buettner was last month. I know, but you two know each other. They didn't know each other. You're going to be great. The last one did have dancing though. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't say that. Okay. So we are at the offices of Ovative. Dale is here to confirm that, as well as, of course, Annie is here as an employee. I think we have a number of other Ovative employees here. I don't entirely know what Ovative does, but you're going to tell me that, which is good because you know. I know it's digital. I know it's related to advertising and media and other stuff, but I don't want to blow it. So I'm going to let you do that. We as in Capsule, if you don't know us, we're in Northeast. We are a special projects agency. So we work with brands all over the country, and actually right now have a client in Finland, which is a big freaking deal for us. And we work on special projects in the area of like brand architecture, brand strategy, research, all kinds of interesting things. Patagonia is a past client. Quick Trip is a client. Amazing people that we worked with over the years. And the big news is we're 25 years old. Hence, there's a poster back there, a poster about curiosity. And the poster depicts that. And if you stand in front of that poster, I dare you not stare at it for 5 minutes because it's freaking amazing. There's so many levels in that poster. We're doing this poster series every other month. So 6 of these posters all around our values. So we're calling it Designing Value, which I think is a damn cool name, honestly. I think that was Ellen that did that. Thank you, Ellen. There's your credit. See, I don't even know where she is. There she is. Anyway, so we have an amazing show for you. We're going to be chatting up these two individuals, talking about life, talking about creativity and data. Are they friends? Are they frenemies? Are they absolute enemies? And that's going to be fun. Anyone else I need to mention on the sponsorship side of things? No, I don't think so. Ooh, we always have to mention Lake One. They're really good friends. Lake One, Ryan Rudd. He's not here. He's an extreme introvert. And we love Ryan Rudd. And if any of you just link in with Ryan Rudd, like right now, just say, I love you, Ryan. I want to meet you. He does HubSpot integration work, HubSpot stuff. And he's a great guy. And after any of these events, I always ask him, how many people came at you? Because, we're trying to get him to actually show up at some of our events. I think he's been to one. Anyway. And then I talk to him. He's like, you are such an asshole for doing that every single time. But it's funny. I think it's funny. Anyway, and I'm going to hand it over to Kitty, who is my co-host, and she's going to give you her background and where she came from. And then we're going to hand it to our guests, Pam and Annie.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Kitty Hart. I'm at Heroic Productions. We do corporate event production work, audio, video, lighting, and staging scenic. So I get the pleasure of coming and co-hosting these with Aaron from time to time, and I love doing that. I spent 10 years at Capsule, so very familiar with Think and Link when it was started back in 2009, right? When you moved into the North Loop. So I always say you didn't come to hear us talk. We will queue up good questions to the two of you so that we can just soak it all in. Let's start by having you two introduce yourselves, what you're doing at your respective companies, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Me go first? Okay, I'm Pam Kermisch, and I'm the Chief Customer Growth Officer at Polaris. For those of you who aren't as familiar with the company, we are the global leader in power sports. So off-road vehicles, RZR, Ranger, Sportsman, General, Expedition. We have Indian Motorcycle and Slingshot are our on-road brands. And then we have our marine brands, Bennington and Godfrey Pontoons and Hurricane Deck Boats, and a whole bunch of parts, garments, and accessories that go along with that. And so I spent the first 18 and a half years of my career at General Mills. It's awesome to see some familiar faces around here from my Mills days and my Polaris friends. And, you know, it's been a really great ride going from packaged goods to power sports. The thing I will tell you is the most amazing thing to me is how driving consumer demand and motivating your consumers and understanding them, there's more alike than different. And so people love it at work when I tell them how motorcycles is exactly the same as flour, because they're both very seasonal businesses and you shouldn't spend money out of season. And so it's fun to combine those.
That's awesome. So, thanks, Pam. I'm Annie Zipfel, you guys. I'm the EVP here over our media teams. And, what is Ovative, Aaron? Thanks for that lead in. So, we are really proud to host all of you guys today. And we are really proud to have Dale here, who is our founder. And a lot of us have a Target background, and Ovative was actually founded because there weren't many agencies who were actually looking across all media types and really investing in the measurement of media's effectiveness. So I'm sure that resonates with everybody in this room. So more on that as we get through this discussion. I had the good fortune of working with Pam for many years at General Mills also. So when Pam says seasonal things like flour, I get all worked up about key baking season. Right, Rick Schaefer and Mark Addix and everybody there. Ugh, we're getting the shivers already. But then my career has spanned General Mills and Target, REI, and Starbucks. And most recently as the chief marketing officer at Anderson Windows and Doors. And as I have neither interest in windows or doors, I am pleased to be here at Ovative, where we are even more pleased to say that Polaris is a wonderful client of ours. And so we're really excited to have Pam here and have so many other folks in the room, like some folks I'm staring at in the front row here, and a lot of our team that are here. So welcome everybody to Ovative. It's fun to have you here.
Awesome. We don't want to pick on windows and doors because they may be on the stage sometime. They could be. You never know. Yeah. I like windows and doors. Yeah. Yeah. We had Marvin windows on, and then I actually bought windows and I had to go to Anderson for my windows because they were just too damn good. So I had to apologize to Christine Marvin. It was embarrassing. Yeah, it was hard. Anyway, so we don't want to pick on that windows people at all. It's not a good thing. Kitty, do you have a question for our guests?
Well, let's just go right at it here. The connection between data and creativity, because just inherently we do look at that and they do seem to be opposing forces, but there is a right way to use data, collect data, and turn that into creativity. So if you can each talk a little bit about that, what is the right balance? What is the right relationship? We've heard the word frenemy. What are your thoughts on that?
I got a couple for you, a couple things to think about. You know, I think first of all, I work on products that have low household penetration. So if I worked on toilet paper, maybe targeting wouldn't be quite as critical. But when you work on household penetration products that have 10 to 12% of the people buy your products, you're not going to have the money to reach all of the right people. And so I can even tell you, our consumers tend to be outdoor enthusiasts. They're farmers, they're hunters, they're property owners. That's great. Even those pools of people are too big that the waste is just absolutely too much for us to do. So the idea that, first of all, if you went into Walmart and bought rolls of toilet paper, Walmart doesn't know who bought the toilet paper. Fortunately for me, when you buy a vehicle, you warranty register it. We know who bought it. We can use third-party data. My friends from Axiom are here. We can use third-party data to append that to learn more about our consumers. And we can use that to understand what our owners look like, and we can do lookalike modeling. And we can feed that data to Ovative and our media partners to help us do better targeting and be smarter with our money. So that is, first of all, amazing. But think of all the brand building ideas and things we also want to do. By being smarter with our resources on one side, it allows you some dollars to be able to invest in things that are truly brand building as well. And so you get both. The other thing I would just have you think about is one of the things that was always hard for me is anyone who's developed creative and has things like marketing mix models or has testing of your creative. A lot of times, some of the ideas that people felt like were really great creative got killed in the process because it was polarizing. So things that were middle of the road that were safe would move through, and things that could be really exciting for some, but not for everyone, would get killed. In this new world, one of the most exciting things to me is using AI and machine learning with our media partners, Meta and Google, our agency partners are pushing us saying, don't give me one creative. Give me a variety of creative. Give me different messages, different ways in, different upper, mid, lower funnel. We're going to put it in the machine, and when the machine is going to optimize it. So I feel like we actually get to be more creative, because instead of having one version or one version upper, mid, lower funnel, I might be able to have 15 different versions, more targeting, different emotions, different ways in, and letting the machine run and optimizing to creative. But instead of suffocating creative and having one, I get a lot of creativity. Much faster and efficient.
Damn, that sounds good.
Just a minute. Okay. I mean, the only other thing I think I'd add to what Pam said, other than we killed a lot of ads over at General Mills, didn't we? Yeah, we killed a lot of them for mediocrity. Is I look at the intersection of creating the data almost as a bow tie, Kitty, which is like the data goes in, the creative's in the middle, and then the data comes out the other side, which is like we just have to use data to inform it, but we can't disrupt the creativity that's in the middle. But the data will tell us afterwards how effective it was. And Pam's spot on when we talk about how machine learning and AI today is going to places we never could have even imagined when we were babies over at General Mills. And you have to trust the machine, but creative is the new targeting. And that is what Meta talks about all the time, but it's just true. And because we can just replicate and scale so much faster than we could, that's really what's going to take brands into the future. So just adding the plus one onto Pam's.
So, and what I love about what you just shared, there's for all the people out there who have said AI is going to take away our jobs, what you just described is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So it should be, from a creative standpoint, it should be seen as a very, very exciting time.
Yeah, we actually had a session today with all the directors in our media team here today, and I quoted Meta in that, which is AI for sure is changing and has already changed the creative process, but creativity is always going to have to be done by people. So maybe that always isn't true, but it is true for now. So I love what AI is doing. It's helping us scale faster than we could even ever imagined.
Christy on my team is going to laugh because we are doing an internal marketing training in a couple of weeks, and she's been working on a section on media. And one of the things you could go to Chat GPT and say, make a creative that looks like XYZ. And you're going to look at it and go, no. Here's the thing. And I firmly believe this. You, as the people who work on the business or who work at your creative agency, you have to understand the customer. AI is not going to understand the customer better than you can. You need judgment to understand. If you need to pull emotion out of people, and listen, I'd love to think that everyone buys rationally. That would make the world a lot easier place, right? That's not how it works. And so you have to understand your consumer, understand what motivates them, understand what you're going to do to make them move. And so AI is not going to do that. And so if anything, I will argue one of the pressures our team has felt this year is, as Ovative is telling us, instead of having one version for hunters and one version for farmers, and we want all these different versions. And by the way, you should be doing different creative if it's in TikTok versus Instagram versus if it's connected TV. We need more video. We need more. We need more. We need more creative. I would tell you the need for more creative is exploding. And so the machine is not going to develop that and get it right and understand the consumer, but the machine can help feed it and help us move faster and optimize. And frankly, if trade-in messaging is working at the low funnel, it's going to optimize to that. If inventory near you is optimizing, it's going to optimize to that. Great. That means I don't have to guess and I don't have to be right. And we can focus our time on understanding our consumer and putting together creative that is going to move the market.
That, yeah, absolutely cool in every way. I think everyone's probably essentially like, oh, thank God. Just the need for more, or then also the other side of that. Oh shit, we gotta produce more. Tim Burnell, who's probably someone that a lot of people in here know, told me to read a book, Alchemy, which is a great book on essentially leaving room for the magic or the alchemy, right? And what you're speaking to as far as leaving room for that space of like, let's do something just absolutely outrageous, unusual that, see where, or a series of things or a number of pieces of content that would do that, that you never know. You just don't know. I'm curious about the things you're finding that are informing the team back as far as, breaking with intuition? Because you go into it like, well, this feels like it would work. Oh, shit. Or this feels like it would never work. Oh, shit. It worked. That stuff. Can you speak to that part of it?
I mean, part of the process, and it's why data and analytics are so important. Just so as a caveat, it used to be, prior to us working with Ovative, the partner we were working with on media was incented by how many leads we got. So if you've ever bought a car before, you fill out on the website, have a dealer contact me, I want to get a price. How many of you have actually filled that out? Like, I'm never filling out that. But they were incented by getting people to fill out leads. So we got a lot of leads on our sportsman business because they could get them. The problem is those didn't convert to retail, but that's where the data stopped. So now, first of all, the important part is going all the way through, looking at not just what converts to clicks or lead forms, what actually converts to retail, and feeding that data back to our media partners and to our agency to make sure we're optimizing to the people who buy our products. So first of all, there's that. But when you look at creative, sometimes people will say, we have to go with X message because that's what we want to say. And that's what I hear all the time. And I think the difference is, but that's not what people are responding to. I'm glad that that's the message. I mean, think about marketing in the old days, right? Here's our brand message. Here's what we want to say. Your audience now has a lot more say and a lot more vote. And so I hate to say it, we got to be comfortable. And this makes some people very uncomfortable. The traditional brand marketing is, we have a new campaign, Tough Doesn't Quit. They're like, well, everything is going to be tough doesn't quit. No, it's not, because that's not going to motivate everybody. And so we're going to have other creative in the marketplace. And what we're going to see is what ultimately converts to retail. If it's a low funnel, mid funnel, right? If it's what's going to get people to the site to start learning, maybe that is inspirational and that works. But at different phases in the funnel, you're going to measure what you're going to measure. In the beginning, it might be who goes to the site, because in our case, everyone shops on the website, or they go there to shop before they buy. They don't buy right away. They're going to go away. What retargeting is going to get them back? Might be a different message. You're going to look at what actually gets them back. Okay, what gets them building vehicles, choosing which is the right model for them, which is the one that gets them to look at inventory. Cool. And then ultimately what gets them to buy, but it's going to be different versions that are going to work for each phase of the funnel and for different people. And so I'd love to pretend like we know best, but let the data drive it.
Yeah, I think it plays really well into the world of design, and going back to what does the individual want? What does the human being want? Design for people, design for that experience. Absolutely love that. We had Liquid Death on a few months ago, and they would throw shit at the wall. That's what it felt like. Now, it was planned, in as much as you could plan the kind of stuff they're putting out, but you see the stuff out there, and they do it fast, and they completely break with their own conventions of like, that's never going to work. Oh my goodness, that did. And they think other things will, and they don't. I'm just very fascinated by, in a way, it's breaking a lot of the old norms in the world of advertising and messaging, because that primary message is like, oh, it doesn't matter. That's you. That's not what me as a buyer, I could give a shit. Right.
Sorry. And I'm laughing because Mark Addix is here, and you may have coined this, but one of the things that I've never been a fan of is random acts of marketing. Right? I think that was Mark. And so what I will say is, it's more about if you know your consumer well enough, there's different angles in. So even when I think about it, it's not, and sometimes we're not as fast as you wish we were, but in some cases, the reason people buy is for performance. And we have a lot of engineers at our company that think everybody wants performance and everyone wants to ride thrill-seeking things, right? The truth is, we have a lot of consumers that like to go with their family on an off-road trail and just hang out and socialize and spend the afternoon together. Same message isn't going to work. In other cases, people are all about style and how it looks and how I look when I'm in it and what it says about me. So if you can think about it, it's just the variations of that way in. They're all true, and our consumer insights will point them to show you they're all true. So it's not even random. It's not even like this is a crazy idea, but in the past, you didn't have the ability that you had to pick. And by the way, when I say pick, I'm targeting a Slingshot owner. Slingshot looks like a Batmobile. It's on 3 wheels. You may have seen them around town. There are different people like that for different reasons. For anyone who buys that thing, no introvert has ever bought that product, because you're not going to the gas station without being talked to, right? But right, but
Old Corvette buyer.
and you know what's funny though? When we first started it, everyone internally said performance because they're engineers and they like going fast and it's performance. That thing looks like it's going to go really fast. And when it came out, it was a 5-speed. It was a manual because that's what sporty things do. That's except for the fact that 10% of the US population can drive a stick, but okay. It wasn't doing well. And the data was pointing to more multicultural consumers, owners than anything we'd ever seen. And so that's great. We did consumer insights. You know what? The people who wanted it wanted to stand out. They wanted style. Look at me. They actually don't want to go fast. They want to go slow and have everybody look at me. So if you go out there with creative for performance, there is a percent of the population that are going to like that. But that's not who the majority of the people are. And so and some people want to customize it. It's their unicorn. They want to make it their own, and the lights and the audio and everyone's a snowflake. The different creative that has to go into that, they're all real, but before you had to pick one. So we picked wrong.
But you adjust it. And there it's still out there. It is one of those things you look at and you go, people are buying this thing? Holy shit. It is an unusual piece of equipment.
It's
And then-
probably similar to the new, what's the new vehicle that looks like the Army, the cyber truck thing? But meaning that when it's parked in a parking lot or it's driving down the road, it is like, you can't take your eyes off it because it's so ugly. I'm sorry if anyone has it.
It is.
I'm sorry if anyone has it.
Yeah. You never know. We could have Elon Musk on, so let's not insult the Cybertruck, but it is ugly. Yeah. But it's probably the same personality buying that same vehicle, right? It's that kind of like, everybody look at me. I've got this thing.
There's a difference between standing out and sticking out. And we actually had a vehicle, the Victory Vision, that was apparently the best motorcycle ever, unless you looked at it. Our owners want to stand out, not stick out.
Good distinction.
Nuance. That's good.
So I'm curious about the client and agency relationship. If you could maybe talk a little bit about that, like how you work together. What does an engagement look like? And then how do you take that work and roll it into your creative?
Well, maybe without naming names, it would be fun, Pam, for you to just say like, what caused you to make a change, or like what, you know what I mean? Like, because a smart company like Polaris doesn't just change, it's kind of a big deal when you're going to change that. That's
actually funny story. So we had been with our prior agency for 5 years, and it was a really big upgrade when we went to them. Big agency. They had very good account services, and they cared a lot, and we had a really good partnership. And toward the end of the 5 years, a woman on my team came to me and said, we're going to do an RFP. It's been 5 years. Strategic sourcing feels like. And I said, really, with media? Like, we're going good. Like, why are we going to disrupt this? It just would be such a mess. And the agency is doing a great job. What are we doing? And well, strategic sourcing. Okay, fine. We'll comply. This was not a commitment. This was a compliance on my part. Okay. Cards on the table. We get in, they have 13 or 15 different agencies. And I was like, Ovative, really? And the reason I said it is we worked with Ovative on SEO. I just didn't know that Ovative was more than SEO. That's just the other names I had higher awareness, but they're good. They've been an amazing partner. Of course, we're going to, give them a chance, but I just, I expected that we would end up with the incumbent. We had leaders from all of our businesses across the company and marketers, a whole huge group go through a very robust process. And here's the thing. We had become more data driven. We had brought in people who understood internally. Travis is our marketing analytics director, had really transformed our ability to understand things internally and use it. And for 3 years, we had worked really hard to try to say, how can we use this more to get more efficient, to get more effective? And I would say the partnership was good, but it seemed like we might have reached the end of the rope on capability. And it wasn't. I always say, is it capability or will? It wasn't will. They were willing to partner, really wanted to. It just didn't seem like the capability was there. And as we got into conversations with Ovative, I walked out of the first meeting, as did the entire group, and was like, okay, the game has changed now. Like now they are the ones to beat, because it was very clear that as we're throwing, they can catch and they can take it to the next level. And our other partner wanted to, they were being really good partners in trying, but they weren't going to be able to get to where we felt like we were, and for sure not where we were going. And so it was disruptive. And, you know, all kinds of things happen when you change, and who had what data, and are we going to lose our history and accounts? And I will tell you, I would have done it again in 2 seconds, because as a company, you have to know where your advantage is going to be. And this was a place where we were making some really big bets. We had been working on our own CRM for probably 5 years and building out what we were going to be able to do internally with our own data. And we were at a place where we couldn't wait another 5 years to get there. We needed to be able to have a partner who could run now. And this was the partner that there was no question, hands down, right decision. With that, you get a highly engaged.
No. We get the best of the best. Yes, Katie, I was going back to, like, I think maybe a different altitude, which is, I think, in a high fun, because your question is really about, like, what's a high functioning, like, agency partner relationship, right? And Pam knows I'm being serious about this, is we look at ourselves all the time. And we just today, we were doing an internal account review on a client, not Pam, but a different client, which is like, why is this one so good? Why is this one going so well? And it's like, you know, we have shared values. You know, we're transparent. Ovative is incredibly transparent. It's the most transparent company I've ever worked at. And I told you guys where I worked. And together we literally walk in the shoes of our clients. And I spent 30 years as a client. This is only my second year as an agency person. And Pam knows, like, I get super sweaty when there's a problem with Polaris. I get super sweaty when any of my clients have a problem, because I treat their business like it's my business. That's it. Like, end of story. As does every Ovative person that is in this room who works on Polaris. We treat the business like that. And I think that's where we're high functioning. I think where it becomes low functioning is where it's more of a reactive situation, where there's a change in leadership constantly, or a change in objectives constantly. And ultimately, of course, when there's the values just aren't lined up, which is a bummer, because all we want to do is win, you know, together. But that's when it's a super big bummer on that. And you know what story I thought you were going to tell, Pam? Wow. So I came in October of 2022 here, and this process was going on at Polaris. And I was like, wait, I know Pam. I'll send her an email. That'll close the business, because you guys hadn't picked yet. And so I send this email. Hi, Pam. You know, just my first agency is the first time I've ever done this. I only would have come here, which is true, if I believed that this was an agency that was completely different, that was actually measuring the impact, the full impact of marketing. And then Travis, sitting in the front row, who works on Pam's team, used to work for me at REI, fun fact. And then I sent Travis the same note. I'm like, you guys got to believe me. And then we got the business like 2 weeks later. I was like, Dale, I closed the business, you know. And
You also try to steal Travis away at a former company.
I tried to steal Travis for 10
that.
years. I know. I'm working it again tonight at dinner. So
Yeah.
anyways, I really thought it was me. This is the first time hearing it wasn't me, Pam. So I'm glad to know that it was other reasons that you love Ovative. So, and you could see, honestly, the friendship, like, this is for realsies, you know. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that, because we share a lot, which is cool.
I love how Dale went from blushing to laughing out loud at that moment. Oh yeah, he enjoyed that. Yeah, that was perfect. That was a good move. Yeah. The transparency. I was thinking about the fishbowl that he sits in. He sits in a fishbowl in the office, right? And which I commend him for sitting in the fishbowl. And I was able to walk right in when we got here. And he didn't go, the hell are you? He remembered who I was. Yeah, he knows the people around. It's very, very impressive. Yeah, very transparent. And data is not very transparent, right? It's usually behind that wall of, like, nobody knows what's going on. So it's a good, solid message. I like that. Kitty, do you have a question?
Polaris has been a really interesting brand to watch over the years. I think there are many people in this room that can remember back to really when it was just known for snow, right? It was snowmobiles. And then all of a sudden it started, I mean, it was growth through acquisition. And every once in a while there'd be an acquisition that we would be like, oh, that's interesting. So how do you use data, and just in general, being part of the leadership team, how do you remain relevant across so many customer segments?
So I think the biggest thing is, so it's interesting. Polaris was started in 1954 up in Roseau, Minnesota. Two brothers and a best friend wanted to get to their destination faster. So they literally strapped a motor to a sled and created the first snowmobile. The snow business is actually a pretty small part of our company now, but it's obviously the heart and soul of where we started, and we still have a plant up in Roseau. Off-road vehicles is the 800-pound gorilla at Polaris. So it's 5 out of our $8 billion. And so we have marine and everything else, but that is the big one. I think, when we were a smaller company, and I was telling someone this ahead of time at the link, but the company grew because we had people internally who were engineers and they were riders, and they decided that, they didn't need to wait to do research. They just knew what would make the vehicle so much more awesome. And that's great when you're a smaller company, as to innovate and keep making the best products. That's the lifeblood of the company. But at some point, as you scale, you're not all the riders. And you think about, a lot of our people internally are big adrenaline junkies, right? The vast majority of our business is actually Polaris Ranger, which is a utility vehicle, which is used for farm and ranch hunting, yes, but properties. So if I have a 2-acre property, I'm not using it as an adrenaline junkie. I'm using the winch to go pull a 200-foot fence out. I'm using it to snowplow the driveway. And so the company has had to evolve to really understand our customers, all the different types of customers. Like I explained, the slingshot customer, that was a foreign customer to our internal people. So instead of making this pivot from we are the customer, so therefore we know all the customers, to we are some of the customers, but we actually have to, one, get out in the wild and talk to them, watch what they're doing, learn how they're using it, what are the pain points, and then listen to them. And so I think a lot of the innovation in more recent years is because we've been listening to customers instead of trying to create what we think would be better.
What are some of the different ways that you do that? How do you actually get into the field and gather that?
So, I mean, the great news is we have a huge install base. So if you want to go when we know who they are, so we can recruit owners and literally go out onto their land with them and observe them for 3 days. But we do consumer learning. Our consumer insights group is not huge. This is not what I was used to before coming to Polaris. In fact, our off-road business, when I in the past few years, was the only business that had dedicated consumer insights resources. Barrett's here now. She's one of them. She's one of 3 people in the business unit, right? Marine has 1. On-road has 1. It's a very lean team. And so even convincing people internally that we need to do this, one of the interesting things, a couple years ago, our on-road team was doing some research, and they're like, well, we don't think we need it. We don't have the money. We'll just do surveys. Yeah, they do a lot of surveys that validate what they want to do, not the consumer insights work where you do qualitative and listen or watch and observe. And so I literally funded the project for them. I said, I'll pay for it if you agree to participate in it. And they did. And we actually halfway through brought our leadership team in to learn the really messy stuff from the ethnographies, just to bring them in, just for some of them have never been through this, to learn. And what you see is the wheels start turning when they see it. I had a meeting this morning saying I might have to fund a marine project next year because I have some people who think we got it. And I think I might have to, lead them to water and give them a few drinks before I, go do it. Drink. But I honestly think it's an evolution, and it is getting out into the field. And people will say, we know the voice of the customer. We talk to people at events. But you're not a consumer research professional, so you're probably wording things in the way of, if we did this, you would like it, wouldn't you? So, yeah, I'm sure they loved your idea.
Slightly biased questions are always fun. Yeah. I'm looking for an answer. Can you give me this answer? That's great. Thank you. Right. Yeah. I love that, going deep into understanding. Kitty and I share an experience having worked with Polaris and done a project in which we got to go out and do the adrenaline thing with the product design team. And it was definitely adrenaline junkies. Yeah. The engineers, the people that, it's a magnificent experience. I don't know that it sells a lot of the standard, utility vehicles at all. Yeah. Because we didn't do things that felt like anything else could do. Yeah. It was slightly scary and slightly fun. Do you have another question, Kitty?
Yeah. So it's always helpful when we can share specific examples? If you can, I have a very specific question. Can you share an example of when data significantly impacted the timing or the content of a campaign?
Okay. Timing or content? I think, well, here's what I would say. The data informs the what. It doesn't tell us the why. And so in terms of timing, actually, we had some learning that came to be. We had an intern this summer, and she was looking at our boats data in terms of when does organic traffic happen, and when, see, I listened to the intern presentation. When does organic, Sarah did a really nice job. When does the organic traffic hit, and when are we doing our advertising? And you could see, and when the leads come in, and you could see it was misaligned. The organic traffic was happening, and then we looked at the buying cycles, and basically we were putting our paid on too late. And so what happens is with boats, if you don't hit the timing where people are going to buy, they'll still come to the site, they'll research, they'll learn, but they're going to hold off for a year. They're going to wait till next year. So that's not helpful when they were planning to spend the money to hit the retail in that year. And so it really very much, the data absolutely will shift the timing for this year of when the paid happens, because it tells us that the campaign itself, to me, that's more of the why. And that's the piece that with data, like I said, with Slingshot, the data told us that a different audience was buying it, but it didn't tell us the why. And I do think it is data, but I look at it as more of the consumer insights, the more why that really helps us understand and shifting the campaign. And, just one that I think is extremely emotional is you talk to customers and you see this link of, I grew up doing this. My dad, my grandpa taught me to love this. I want to teach this to my kids. And so one of the things we did is we had a video and photo shoot happening on Ranger down in Texas. And one of the marketing managers said, I never have any money to produce anything. I'm just going to see if while they're down there, they can get some content and we can do a campaign for the youth ATV that's launching later this year. Not planned. He had like $13,000. Now, the funny part is the creative came back and it was absolutely horrible. He ended up being let go. That wasn't working. And so I gave it to someone else on the team and I was like, go do something with this. I don't even know what to do. The creative is so bad. I don't even know what feedback to give. And she goes, well, maybe it would help if I started by seeing what the brief was. The brief was an email that said, make it funny or make them cry. If you can't make them cry, make it funny, make them laugh. That was the brief. And here's $13,000 and get the footage while you're in Texas shooting Ranger. Okay, needless to say, you can understand why the creative may not have met the mark. But we happened to have a family. We had a dad. We had kids. And Father's Day was coming up around the time this was launching because it was for summer. And so she talked about the fact that parents, but especially dads, learned it from their dad, their grandpa, love passing it on to their kids. And we also see with a lot of families, especially for dads and their daughters, there's a unique bond there. And to teach your daughter something that might be stereotypical male, like an ATV, there's something to that where it just kind of fights. So anyways, she rebriefed it with the creative that had already been cut, with the photo and video shoot was already cut. And I don't have it with me, but it's this amazing piece of, I can always try to figure out how we can send it out to the attendees, but it's this amazing piece of creative about a dad and his daughter, and there's no words in it, and it's just music. And but it is 100% about passing it along to his daughter and also making her strong and brave and everything that, the dad wants to do to see his young daughter grow up strong. So it's pretty cool.
Damn, just the description. I'm going to tear up right in front of everybody. Stop. Damn. I have a daughter. Yeah, I love that. Slight switch of gears. I want to hear from Annie as far as moving from the other side. What they used to say, the dark side to the light side, of the light side to the dark side. I don't know which side is dark or light. I've never really understood that concept. But I'm curious what it was like to move from all these other corporate environments inside of this wonderful organization. Can you give me more on that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, 30 years building brands and great organizations. And then I've known Dale for about a decade. And had the privilege of knowing Dale for about a decade, and we've just kind of been talking for a long time of could there be an opportunity here? And for me, I always tell people the story of Ovative is Dale built the company he always wanted to work at. And so for me, I feel like getting the opportunity to come in every day, put our clients first, put our team first, to have a lot of joy while we're doing it. That's just what we do every day. And the funny thing, and Dale would agree with this, that like for the first 3 months, I would say things to Dale like, hey, I don't want to step on Jesse's toes, or hey, like I should probably go get Shannon in the loop before I do that. Like, hey, Dale's like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you saying, like, he had to like, Dale, he had to like just yell at me until I would stop being corporate and political and everything. And everybody who's worked at General Mills, Target, and REI and Starbucks and all the other places I've worked, traps, like they know that that's just kind of life in the corporate world. And so here I'm probably the most empowered and the most able to just simply do the right thing all the time and really not feel any concern as long as it's the right thing for the team and the client always and first. And so, and that's a tribute to Dale because that's what he built, and that's why people come here and love it. And that's no bullshit. That's 500 people would all say that to a letter. So I feel super fortunate and I feel super lucky, especially at my stage in my career, that I get to do that. Like I get to work here. That's really different than everywhere else I've worked.
You don't have to say, hey, anymore. You don't have to do that.
This is predominantly for the target people in the room, and you know who you are, which is like, I don't have to do the pre-meeting to do the other meeting to do the meeting and then debrief on the meeting that happens after the meeting when we do the meeting. Does that resonate with anyone? Okay, just a few. Come see me.
Right. Yeah, that is a bit of the dark side. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, live stream, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm not gonna pick on that. Yeah, we might have Target on this. Actually, we do have Target on the stage, former Target on the stage. You're coming up in November, but former. So it's fine. It's okay. It's good. No big deal. Yeah. Kitty, do you have another question before we turn to our audience?
How much time before
3
audience?
minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. Okay. So other than the evolution of AI and kind of where that's going, because you've talked about that a little bit, how do you see the relationship between data and creativity evolving like over the next 5 years or so? Are there other emerging technologies or trends, et cetera?
It's not necessarily AI, but I think about our ability to do automation. And so think about it, you buy a vehicle today and I want to give you a welcome email and I want to actually make sure you understand the basics of the maintenance things you need to do right away. And then maybe as it's seasonal, I might have different messages I want to give you as an owner. I might have really cool things coming that would work on your vehicle. Great. It used to be we'd send that and then someone else would buy in 3 months and you'd have to go put together an email and start over again. Just automation. Now we can do it where if every single person in this room came in on a different date over the next year, you get the first email, you get the second email, and automation is hugely helpful. I think about the fact that, we have tool called LiveRamp that gives us visibility anonymously about the people shopping on our website and in our different owned properties. I don't have your name. I don't have your email. I can't market to you that way, but it gives me data to understand what is the behavior you're doing. And from there, we can create automated programs and say people who do these behaviors get fed this type of creative or this type of media at this frequency at this time. And so the idea of more automation and frankly, in our world, there's media and there's video in different places, TV, on your phone, et cetera. But there's also, we use direct mail, which might sound like the snooziest thing you've ever heard of. It works for us. And, you have to remember our vehicles, inspiration, pictures, get people reading the information, that things that they're looking for. Direct mail works, email works still. And so the idea that you could do automation to go, the series is going to be 3 emails, a direct mail, a bunch of media, then we come back, you can do that. The technology will only help us do more better and make it more personalized. The website can be more personalized because of the technology. Still requires human thinking 100%, but it can make a more personalized, better experience and drive better results.
Yeah, I love that. There's a lot less in your mailbox than is in your inbox. So showing up there, maybe 1 of 10 versus 1 of 10 million, which is great. You're going to go around and the runner ask questions. So questions from the audience for our 2 guests. Anything you have, raise your hand. throw it at them. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep embarrassing them with really more intense questions. No, we expect really good questions from our audience because we've got so many past guests. Yes. And you're going to make her walk all the way.
Not to be overeager with the first question, but I was struck by something you talked about. Yeah, it's really interesting that you have such a segmented customer base and so many different products and so many different segments and motivations. I'm just wondering, how do you guys, and this is nothing really about data specifically, it's more about your brand strategy, I guess. How do you think about your brand positioning and your macro kind of Polaris brand position relative to the sort of, needs of all of these different targets that you reach and all of the different products that you sell them? And, kind of how do you maybe coordinate the messaging from a brand level through to a product level?
You've been sitting in meetings and listening to the fights at the office because it feels like that is very relevant all the time. It's interesting because you have people with differing perspectives, and people will say, I'm talking to a customer who's raw adrenaline and it's all about thrill seeking, and Polaris Think Outside, which is our kind of company, that's not right for them. And what we try to talk about is, first of all, brand is who you are. We are Polaris. We are blue. Some of my colleagues don't want to believe that and like to go red or black, but we are Polaris. We bleed blue. Think Outside is our company tagline. And that came from a bunch of research with existing owners, intenders, a lot of constituents. And frankly, the people knew who were not owners but thought about it. The things that they thought about the brand and what existing owners, there were things that were opposing, and then there were things that were common. And so where Think Outside came from was from the common. Even on the utility business, like when I even say riders, our motorcycle folks think of themselves as riders. Our off-road riders on the recreation side think of themselves as riders. If you're using a Ranger to do work at your farm, you don't think of yourself as a rider. You're doing work. So Think Outside, we got there because really the company was about finding a better way to do things. That's how it started. That story with the two brothers and a best friend. It was always a better way to do things. And that's where Think Outside. It's outside, but it's also about thinking of a better way to do things. That's across everything. We do have brand campaigns, and you can have a campaign that is not Think Outside, and you can have messages that are all about, on the utility side, working smarter, not harder. Tough doesn't quit. You can have a racing story that is more about performance and durability in the toughest of conditions. Those are campaigns. I still think it fits within brand, but we constantly have to be pushing people to say, is the brand coming across clear? Are you using the blue? We actually have a cool Sonic brand that if ESPN is on, the music when it's ESPN. We have one too. And sometimes it's more subtle, and sometimes people don't want to integrate it. They don't think they need to use it. So it's a constant battle of negotiating that and honestly trying to influence. But what we would say is your brand is who you are. Your campaigns can adjust to who you're talking to and what's relevant to them, but you still have to be who you are. You can't be somebody you're not.
Question over here.
Another question.
Yeah, I think when you awarded the business to Ovative, can you give a little bit of specificity in terms of when you talked about capabilities? What did that look like in terms of, if we go with them, they're going to take the data and they're going to do what? What did that look like? What did you think you were getting when you went with them, and what has it manifested in terms of
I'm going to give
how it
you
was executed?
as like, this is the truth. When you buy media and your media agency uses the normal sources, right? And I say, I want outdoor enthusiasts. I want hunters, right? You're going to use the methods that you're going to use. The problem is outdoor enthusiasts could be a tennis player. That's outdoors. That doesn't mean they're going to buy a razor, Polaris razor. And so the hard part there is we have owner data. We could do lookalike modeling. The idea was, if we feed you the data, can you use that in the work to do better audience targeting? Can you get us the data back of who's responding, right? And so we can learn more about who's actually responding. And then we're going to hook it all the way through to give you the data of who actually bought. And then you're going to use that to look at the full loop. And we're going to do it over and over and over again. And this is not I mean, here's the hard part. The old way was you put together a plan, you put the plan in place, and you watch it work. The problem at Polaris is, I mean, this is just company culture. When I was at General Mills, part of it was because we did a lot of things on packages. So if you want to put a toy in a cereal box, you're going to plan a year out because of when packages get printed, when cereal gets packed out. And frankly, that cereal is good for a year. So that's how you got to plan. If you need to make adjustments, I mean, what's on the box, you're not going to change it that fast, right? In our world, when I got to Polaris and they're like, retail's not doing well. What are we going to change this week? What are we going to change this month? But the problem was, if you're not hitting your retail this month and you go, well, we need to, do more advertising. People don't buy our products in 3 days. We now know it's, depending on the product, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. Adding media or changing the media this week is not going to fix retail for this week. But with the data and analytics, we can do real-time changes to the people who are already in the low funnel. Who are the people who have submitted leads or who've been in the very low funnel parts of the website? They've been looking for inventory. They've been looking at what the deals are. They've been to dealer websites. Can we tee up for them? You were looking at the sportsman in blue. Here is the sportsman in blue at a dealer right down the block from you. Or we now have $500 off, or that doesn't work. Maybe 1.99 financing is what's going to tip you. You want trade-in. So we have the ability now with the data to respond a lot more quickly. So planning moves from set it and forget it and then panic and countermeasure to this is called you set the plan and it's constantly optimizing. And I think optimizing is a lot different than chaos that happens with blow up the plan and start over. It's optimizing.
Aaron Streeter, I have a question around dealers, actually. I'm curious about what kind of challenges and ways that you're able to combat those challenges with working with dealers. Perhaps it's around not getting that data quick enough, or perhaps it's like you're sending someone to Moon Motorsports and they end up buying a totally different product because of that. So I'm just kind of curious how you guys are combating that. So.
Yeah, no, so I mean, okay, so I want you guys to think about this. In my old world, we worked with Kroger and Walmart and Target, right? You can drive them to the store to buy Cheerios, but if they in the cereal aisle, they can pick any brand they want. Most people had on their list cereal, not which one they were going to get. They might have a favorite cake brand or yogurt brand, but it's a multi-brand environment, right? For a lot of categories. In auto, you have, and by the way, McDonald's is franchises. So McDonald's has a lot more control over their franchises. Our dealers are an independent network of dealers. So you don't have the same franchise rules where you can make them do stuff or they all look the same. So think about when you bought a car. If you bought a Toyota, that Toyota dealership is not owned by corporate Toyota. They're actually, most states have laws where Toyota cannot own them. So it is an independent business that is a Toyota dealership that mostly follows the rules, but they can make independent decisions. Our stores, most of our dealers are more like Kroger in a cereal aisle where they carry our brand. They also carry all of our competitors. It's a multi-line environment. So we can do all the marketing in the world. We get them excited. We convince them, and we're the global leader. So we spend the most money. We get them excited. We tell them why they want an off-road vehicle. We get them excited about Polaris. They get there and Can-Am or CF Moto is offering a $50 spiff to salespeople if you sell their brand this month. And for $50, they switch them at the last minute. That's the bigger problem. It kills you, right? And CF Moto spends no marketing money and we're driving you there, but they're $3,000 cheaper. Looks great in the showroom. I wouldn't ride it, but in the showroom looks great. And you can't do demo rides like you can in a car in an off-road at a dealership. That's hard. That is the hardest part. And frankly, the dealer doesn't care which brand they sell. They just want to sell an off-road vehicle or whatever they're selling. And so honestly, here's what I would say. 99% of people who buy our products do their shopping on the website first, and they go to dealer sites too. So it's in our best interest to get them as far committed to what brand, what model, what trim level, as possible. And I will tell you, our website has gotten a lot better. It's not perfect, and there's more we could do to help make it easier to shop. A few years ago, if I said, go to our website and tell me which model of Ranger and accessories would you want? Good luck to you. It's a lot better. We have tools there. Help me choose. How do I know which is the right one for me? We have actually worked really hard with our team members. You've heard of feature and benefit. We actually have feature advantage benefit, because a lot of times our features aren't intuitive to actually what it does and why I want it. And so if I just said to you, Neva mats, do you want those? This vehicle has 14 inches of travel. You want that? By the way, even if I say LED lights, I know you all know what those are. Do you know why you want to pay more for those on this vehicle? No. So we actually have to, with our copy, work on what is it? Why is this better than whatever else there is out there, or versus nothing? And why is it good for me? So even things like that, we got to do more on our own site to make it so hopefully when you get to the dealer, you kind of have your mind made up, and it makes a jump ball a lot less likely to hit.
We're out of time.
We are out of time. I have one more last question. I have to do this last question. It's part of the new program. The big dilly makes sure that I do this. She's like, I know. From now on out, she's like, don't ever say that again on the stage. That's what I'm going to get after this. Okay. Curiosity. That's our value. The poster is all about curiosity, and give me something on curiosity in each of your organizations. How does it come up? Is it important? Is it what can you give me some perspective on curiosity?
By the way, this totally played out like I wanted it to play out, which is I wanted Pam to answer 90% of the questions. So this was awesome for me today. Here's the thing about Ovative, is we have an expression that's RTFB, which is raise the bar. And it is absolutely 100% grounded in curiosity. Like, we have the expectation of each other every day, and for our clients every day, that we just have to keep raising that bar. And it all starts and manifests itself because of curiosity. And so I mentioned earlier today, I was doing a exercise with my directors in AI, and it was just literally asking them to be curious and to lean into it, and actually just featured a whole bunch of prompts to get them to see what would happen if we started to lean into it. We didn't need to do that today, but we did it because we have to keep raising the bar and being curious. And that's literally one of the values that you will find here. So we love it. If you're curious, this is a good place to be.
And here's what I would say is, when I look at life and I look at our company and our culture, we don't need order takers. I mean that for internal employees. I mean that for agency partners. I mean that I don't want an order taker. And culturally, I've been in environments where that is the case. And frankly, in every conversation, I expect my employees, I expect our partners to question and challenge. And even yesterday, I was talking with a woman who's in a new role, and I said, I know the title, what it is, and I know what the job description is, but you've been here now a couple months, and you're going to be here a couple more months, and you'll get your legs under you. And I want you to come back and tell me if the things that we even said is your job, are those the things that should be your job? Are there things that don't even fit within your job title, but you can see need to be done, and our team could help? Should we do that instead? Is that a bigger something we should do? And so I just think that is healthy, because otherwise people get stuck in, well, this is what you told me to do, so I'm going to do that. Well, what if there's something bigger that we should be looking at? But that's not what that is not helpful. And I just think for every person, for personal growth, for the benefit of the business that you work on, to have that idea of, don't be constrained by what your role is. Think about, what are the things you think are most important to be looked at, and let's go look at them.
Love that. Think outside, and yeah, and be curious. Be fucking curious. Not a curious human, but be curious. Look for stuff. That's
Can I add one thing?
Yes, Kitty.
I feel like there was a past speaker that talked about this as well, but we see all of this commentary and data around how children are so creative, but that creativity is sort of beaten out of us as we become adults. We need to go back to that childlike state every single one of us as creative individuals, as marketers, as business executives, as leaders, we need to give ourselves permission to go back to that childlike state, to it's okay to say, well, why? Well, why? Those kids that you're like, stop asking me why. No, why and why not? And what else? And what you're talking about here is exactly that. I didn't know about this new campaign that you had, Erin, and it's absolutely wonderful because that is what Capsule has always been. You guys have exuded creativity since the very beginning, and it's been fun to watch your journey.
Very good. Thank you, Kitty. All right, you have survived another Thinking Link, and you've survived a Thinking Link at Ovative. You've made it over here to the side of town, and I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. But what we've got next month, we are going to freak the shit out of a lot of people. We're going to the airport. We're going behind security at the airport for our next one. And on the other side of security, we've got famous Dave. Yeah, that Dave Anderson. We've got Steve Sussler, who I can never pronounce his last name, founder of Rainforest Cafe. There it is. Founder of Rainforest Cafe. And then, of course, Joe Pine, the author of The Experience Economy. 3 amazing speakers on the other side of security.
How do we get through security?
You're going to come up to a little, that little info desk. You've been to the airport, right? It's like Terminal 1, info desk. There'll be our sign. You'll have to give them your birth date. They might actually have to already have it ahead of time. So it's a little bit weird, a little different. You don't have to do your birth date here. And you're going to give them your birth date. And then they're going to give you a pass. You're going to go through TSA. So you don't have to take your shoes off because we thought that was going to be weird. And that's the first thing, like with your shoes off. Anyway, you're going to go through security and then you're going to be on the other side. And we'll have tours after. So you can go to like the hidden spots within the airport. And this first came up. We're like, no, this is weird. And then I went, we kind of do weird. We do a lot of weird. Weird's cool, right? Okay, we're gonna do weird. And then everybody I talked to is like, well, I gotta be there for that. That's just odd. Right. So a different perspective on the airport. Then of course, amazing 3 speakers. And I look forward to all of you being there. It's going to be an amazing one. I think parking is paid for. Don't quote me on that. Yes, I'm getting a nod. I think parking is paid for. So you don't have to even worry about that. Though you do have to park and go into the airport. All that fun. Anyway, so Pam and Annie, you were amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. Absolutely amazing. Some of these come together so perfectly. You two being friends, and I don't know who I mentioned it to, but you're like, I want to be on the stage with her. Right? I love it. It was just such a perfect pairing. Absolutely perfect pairing. Thank you. It was magical. And thank you for hosting us here. And thank Dave, even though he departed. And of course, Mark Cadix for being here, the hero of many of us here in the marketing community, who's now gone. Anyway, thank you all. Hopefully we see you next month. Enjoy.